Hello everyone, I am Dr. Urja Ranjan Sinha, Assistant Professor of English, DP Vipra College, Bilaspur. Today I am going to deal with Oliver Henry's short story, The Gift of Magi. Before I start the story, I would like to give you a brief description about the author. Oliver Henry is actually the pen name of William Sidney Porter. He was an American short story writer. He was born on 11 September 1862 and died on 5th June 1910. His short stories are known for wit, wordplay, and surprise endings. Throughout the story, the suspense is being maintained and it has the most unexpected twist endings. Some of his famous short stories are The Gift of Magi, The Last Leaf, After 20 Years, The Ransom of Red Chief, A Retrieved Reformation. Now, let me move to the story. The title of the story is The Gift of Magi. The word Magi is actually the plural form of the word magus. The Magi was sect which has biblical reference. These were the wise men who brought gifts for Jesus when he was born. Now, the story is about the two young, impoverished newlyweds. Obviously, the theme of the story is love and sacrifice. The occasion is the festival of Christmas, and the couple is planning to give some special gifts to their counterparts. They are not rich, but they are rich by their hearts. And they are planning to gift each other something very special as that is going to be their first Christmas. Both these persons have valuable possessions which they can gift away to their beloveds. Now, let me start with the text of your story, The Gift of Magi. Here in the story, we have two characters. One is Della and the other one is Jim. Jim's full name was Mr. James Dillingham Young. Let me start the text. But here I am not going to read out line by line, only the important portions I am going to deal so that you get an idea about the story. $1.87, that was all, and 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved one and two at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealing implied. 3 times Della counted it. $1.87, and the next day would be Christmas. So the story begins with the Christmas Eve, and Della is quite sad because she could save only $1.87 despite months of pinching pennies at the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher. Take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 per week. It did not exactly beggar description, but it certainly had that word on the lookout for the mendicancy squad. In the vestibule below was a letter box, into which no letter would go, and an electric button from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. Also appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. So they lived in a very cheap, shabby, and a broken apartment, and there was nothing beautiful in their life at the first glance. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good. These lines actually show their love for each other. Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with a powder rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at a grey cat walking a grey fence in a grey backyard. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. Now, here grey color is emphasized again and again because grey color is associated with dullness, and depression. Here also, Della is quite depressed because she did not have the sufficient amount to give a present to Jim. So she is sad. Now there were two positions of James Dillingham Young's in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch, and that had been his father's and his grandfather. The other was Della's hair. Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee and made itself almost a garment for her. So the two prized possessions or treasures, both of them they had, was first Jim had a golden watch, whereas Della had long hair, brown colored, and it falls below her knees. With a brilliant sparkle still in her eyes, she fluttered out the door and down the stairs to the street, where she stopped the sign read, Madame Safroni, hair goods of all kinds. Will you buy my hair? Asked Della. I buy hair, said Madame. Take your hat off and let's have a sight at the looks of it. Down rippled the brown cascade, $20, said Madame, lifting the mask with his practiced hand. Give it to me quick, said Della. Oh, and the next 2 hours tripled by on rosy wings. Forget the hashed metaphor. She was ransacking the stores for Jim's present. Just see. Della had the prized possession that she had long hair, and she wanted to give some special gift to Jim. So what she did, she had gone to a shop, a hair shop, and there she sold her hair for $20. And she purchased a gift for Jim. She found it at last. What was that gift? What she purchased? Let us see. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design. As Jim had a golden watch, she wanted to buy a platinum fob chain for that golden watch. It was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew that it must be Jim's. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with 87 cents. She already had $1.87, and she sold her hair for $20. That is how the cost of the chain was $21 that she could pay, and she bought it for Jim. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny close lying curls that made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She fixes her hair into curls when she came back home. At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, hot and ready to cook the chops. The door opened and Jim stepped in and closed it. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read, and it terrified her. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly with that peculiar expression on his face. Della wriggled off the table and went for him. Jim, darling, she cried, don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It will grow out again. You won't mind, will you? Say Merry Christmas. So she told Jim that she had hair cut and she sold that for a particular purpose, that she wanted to buy a Christmas present for Jim. And this actually showed her love for Jim. You have cut off your hair? Asked Jim. Cut off? That is, Jim is totally shocked. Cut it off and sold it, said Della. Don't you like me just as well, anyhow? I'm me without my hair, ain't I? Because here Della is also worried that whether now what would be the reaction of Jim. So she says, don't you like me just as well anyhow? Am me without my hair? Because that was her external beauty. You say your hair is gone, he said. He drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. Don't make any mistake, Dell, he said about me. I don't think there is anything in the way of a haircut or a shave or a shampoo that could make me like my girl any less. But if you will unwrap the package, you may see why you had me going a while at first. See, her sacrifice and generosity had already valued Jim. He was actually dumbfounded, not for the reason that she had got her hair cut, but for the reason the gift which he had brought for her. For there lay the combs, the set of combs. They were expensive combs. She knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. She had craved for those combs once, and Jim wanted to buy those expensive combs for Della. They were expensive combs, but she hugged them to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up with dim eyes and a smile and say, my hair grows so fast, Jim. She was very happy to have that gift because she had craved for long for that gift, and ultimately she had got that gift. So she is very happy, and she consoles herself also, and she consoles Jim also, that my hair would grow, no problem. Jim had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him eagerly upon her open palm. The dull precious metal seemed to flash with a reflection of her bright and ardent spirit. She pulls out the watch chain. Give me your watch, Jim. I want to see how it looks on it, so that she might try how the chain uh, looks at the golden watch. Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. Dell, said he, let us put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They are too nice to use just at present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs. Just see, he sold his golden watch because he too did not have that much amount that he could buy some special gift for Della. So he sold that golden watch. Here, the narrator actually sums up the story by telling the same thing, that Jim too had the same feelings for Della. He had loved Della very much, and that is how he had sacrificed his golden watch to buy a present for Della. Some of the last lines of this story. Here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children. Here I is the narrator himself. He is saying that lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are wisest. Everywhere they are wisest. They are the Magi. So, in the last, the narrator gives his own view and tells that Jim and Della, both of them, they were gift givers, they were the wisest gift givers, though their gifts were useless for each other. Actually, the spirit of love and sacrifice for each other was so great that they did not calculate the price of their gifts. They did not discuss what to give gifts to each other. For them, feelings was supreme, and feelings is an emotional state which is a matter of heart and not of mind. So, in this situation, they did not discuss what to give gifts to each other because both of them they wanted to give surprise to each other. And but some of the practical persons they may consider the couple as foolish because they did not judge the situation by their mind, but in human relationships it is love and understanding that matters. So this was the story of the gift of Magi. I hope you would like it. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.